The story of D'Angelo, born Michael Eugene Archer, is one of brilliance and heartbreak, a journey through the peaks of artistic triumph and the valleys of personal struggle that mirrors the very soulfulness of his music, a tale that begins in Richmond, Virginia, in 1974, where a young boy with an extraordinary gift would one day reshape the landscape of R&B and neo-soul. From the moment he first touched a piano, his connection to melody and rhythm was innate, almost otherworldly, a spark that would grow into a blazing talent that few could ignore, and yet, like many prodigious talents, that same fire would eventually threaten to consume him, for the path to greatness is seldom smooth, and D'Angelo's life was a testament to both the heights of human creativity and the fragility of the human spirit, a story that begins with the release of his debut album, Brown Sugar, in 1995. A record that immediately set him apart, not merely because of his impeccable vocal delivery or his mastery of multiple instruments, but because of the way he wove raw emotion into every note, every phrase, creating music that felt at once deeply personal and universally relatable. A sound that spoke to lovers and dreamers alike, resonating with a generation searching for authenticity in a world increasingly dominated by artifice. And as the album climbed the charts and critics praised his work, D'Angelo was thrust into a spotlight that, while seemingly glamorous, would soon reveal the weight of expectation. For the young musician who had once played in quiet rooms now faced the relentless gaze of the public, a gaze that often demanded perfection, that sought to commodify his art. And in 2000, with the release of Voodoo, he reached the pinnacle of his early career, a masterpiece that fused funk, jazz, and soul into a sound so unique it seemed almost untouchable, earning him Grammy recognition and cementing his status as a pioneer. Yet even at this apex, the pressures of fame began to manifest in profound ways. The scrutiny on his image, particularly following the release of the iconic and intimate video for Untitled, How Does It Feel?, made him a reluctant sex symbol, something he neither sought nor felt entirely comfortable embracing. And this tension between public persona and private self would become a recurring theme in his life. For the same artistry that elevated him also exposed him, leaving him vulnerable to the destructive forces of self-doubt, depression, and addiction, a struggle that would ultimately lead him to retreat from the world he had once illuminated with his music, disappearing from public view for over a decade, a silence that confounded fans, worried for the man behind the melodies, as rumors swirled about his health, his well-being, and the demons he faced in solitude. Yet even in absence, D'Angelo's influence did not wane. Aspiring musicians cited him as a guiding light, his pioneering approach to neo-soul inspiring countless artists to pursue honesty and emotional depth over formulaic production, a legacy quietly growing in the shadows while he wrestled with personal battles far from the stage lights and cameras, until in 2014, the world was jolted awake once more with the release of Black Messiah, an album that was as much a political statement as a musical one, a work imbued with anger, hope, and reflection, a record that reminded listeners that D'Angelo had not been idle in his absence, that he had been listening, learning, and transforming his experiences into art that was both timely and timeless. And while the album was a critical triumph, it also revealed a man who had endured immense hardship, who carried scars that fame and fortune could not heal. Yet even as he reclaimed his place in music history, life dealt its cruelest hand, for beneath the calm and poised exterior, D'Angelo faced a silent enemy, pancreatic cancer, a diagnosis that would eventually claim him at the age of 51, leaving a world stunned and mourning, a community of artists, fans, and admirers reflecting on a life both luminous and tragic, a life that reminded us that genius often walks hand in hand with suffering, that the brilliance we witness in the songs and performances is frequently born from struggle and perseverance. And in the aftermath of his passing, the narratives of his life, both public and private, have begun to converge into a portrait of a man whose music spoke truths that words alone could not capture, a man who transformed pain into melody, doubt into harmony, and fleeting moments into enduring legacy. As journalists, fans, and fellow musicians recount the stories of his humility, his moments of profound introspection, his tendency to vanish when the pressures of expectation became too great, and yet, despite absences, his presence in music was omnipresent, a guiding voice echoing in the riffs of modern R&B, in the lyricism of neo-soul, and in the very consciousness of those who have felt the deep resonance of a note held just a moment too long, of a vocal line that trembles with sincerity, of a groove that pulls the listener into the pulse of his world. And as we reflect on D'Angelo's life, we are confronted with the duality of human experience. The extraordinary capacity to create beauty and the profound vulnerability to forces beyond one's control. A reminder that the man behind the music was not immune to the frailties that define us all, that the very intensity which fueled his genius also contributed to his struggles. A tension that ultimately shaped the narrative of his life and now shapes the narrative of his memory. As tributes pour in from around the globe, musicians citing him as a formative influence. Fans sharing how his songs became the soundtrack to their own joys and sorrows, and critics acknowledging the indelible mark he left on the cultural landscape. For D'Angelo's music was never simply entertainment. It was a conduit for emotion, a vessel for honesty. And in that sense, his passing is not merely the loss of an artist, but the loss of a voice capable of articulating the unspoken, of translating the ineffable complexities of the human heart into notes, chords, and rhythms that linger long after the final measure. And yet, even in mourning, there is solace in the legacy he leaves behind, a body of work that continues to inspire, to challenge, and to console, reminding us that while life is fleeting and fragile, the beauty created within it can endure, echoing across generations, touching souls who may never have known the man personally, yet feel intimately connected to him through the music he shared so generously. And so the story of D'Angelo is one of paradox, a man simultaneously celebrated and tormented, present and absent, silent and profoundly heard, whose journey through life offers lessons about artistry, vulnerability, resilience, and the enduring power of music to transcend circumstance. And as we remember him today, we honor not just the albums and performances, but the courage it took to navigate fame, to confront personal demons, to create unapologetically, and to, in his final years, embrace both mortality and legacy, leaving us with a haunting, beautiful truth that the deepest art often emerges from the deepest struggle, that the most resonant voices are forged in the crucible of life's trials, and that even in passing, D'Angelo's spirit persists in every note sung, every chord strummed, and every listener moved, a testament to a life that, though tragically brief, was profoundly, irrevocably impactful. And as the world continues to play his music, reflecting on the man behind the melodies, we are reminded that D'Angelo was not merely a musician, but a poet of feeling, a chronicler of emotion, a soul who dared to bare his inner world for the rest of us, and in doing so, left a legacy that will continue to inspire, console, and elevate. A timeless echo of what it means to live, struggle, create, and leave behind something eternal. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more untold stories from the music world.